I would like to take this opportunity to first and foremost thank Spade Bar and Lounge for allowing us to come in here this evening to have this kind of open discussion about the game that we love so much. All right, this evening is about honoring several individuals who has made a difference in the game of basketball for the youths of Toronto. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that Butch Carter is unable to attend this evening due to another commitment in Virginia. Ro Russell is also away, and Steve Jordan, unfortunately, will not be here this evening. At this time, I'd like to introduce the honorees: Ken Daniels, Wilton Hall, Chris Smalling, and Donnie Williams. I'd like to start off by asking all of you to introduce yourself, your organization, and how you have contributed to the development of the youths over the past years. Starting with you, Ken.
Well, Ken Daniel, Making Hoops Basketball. I've been coaching over 25 years. I've had the privilege of being coach and mentor to a lot of young people in the community, something that I enjoy. But it's also my way of giving back from when I was a young person playing this game. I know Donnie and Mr. Smallins could attest to playing official sports, all of great black tournaments that we used to have back in the day, and they gave a lot to us, and that's my way of giving back to the basketball community.
Excellent. Wilton.
Wilton Hall, TG for Life basketball tournament, high school coach, West End Collegiate. I also coach grade 7 grassroots AAU elite. Just like I said, I'm giving back by giving my time back to the young generation coming up. Everything I learned from all these people sitting around here, all the great coaches I had in university, high school, growing up, and all the many years. I'm still playing basketball up to today. So just my way of giving back is going back and coach the young kids and passing on my knowledge of what I learned to them. And hopefully they'll do the same as they get older.
And Wilton, on the June 22nd to the 25th, you have the TG for Life basketball tournament. Can you tell us, what does TG stand for, and can you tell us a little bit more about this tournament?
Great. TG for Life basketball tournament originally was Top Gun basketball. Donnie Williams, right here to my right, founder of TG for Life, or Top Gun basketball. And as he moved on in the years, and Sean Duckin and I kind of took the reign, and we changed the name a little bit, and we changed it to TG for Life. Now we've been doing this basketball tournament for over 30 years in the community, and it's going strong. We're the only grassroots tournament that's left. And I'm sure you guys can attest to it. It's still running strong, and we've been running over 30 years. This year, our tournament is being held June 22nd to the 25th at various locations. What we try to do is we go to the colleges, the universities, and we try to rotate and give those kids the experience of playing on those type of courts and environment, so they can aspire to further their education either there or in the States or wherever they want to be. So everybody look out for this year's tournament, June 22nd to the 25th. If you want more information, go to tgforlifesports.com.
All right. Chris Smalling, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Chris Smalling. I run Advantage Basketball, and I've been doing it for many years, but again, to piggyback off of what these guys said, it's a way of giving back to the community. And growing up, there's been a lot of guys that made sacrifices for me, and I grew up in the Galloway area, Kingston and Galloway, and it was dear to my heart. And growing up, there was opportunities that were created by others, and so I came up wanting to do the same thing. Growing up, basketball was difficult because I grew up with 5 brothers, so there's 6 of us and my parents, so trying to afford basketball was extremely difficult for us. And so once I came up, I sort of vowed that I would try and help kids that weren't as fortunate, so that they can have a great basketball experience. So we started Advantage with that in mind. We've been blessed, to have so many players that have come through the program and have received scholarship, but more importantly, players that have played for me years ago are now coming to give back. So for me, the main reason for us doing what we do is the opportunity to give back to kids and continue to pay it forward.
Great stuff. Donnie.
Donald Williams, City of Toronto. I'm just honored to be here. These young gentlemen that are sitting on the table, because of stuff I've done over the years, I've inspired them to be sitting here, being honored also in and around basketball. And for me, it was never just a game of basketball. It was more about life. When I got into basketball, seriously into basketball in the 80s, there was a lot of gun stuff going on in neighborhoods, different neighborhoods, and I felt basketball was one of the ways to bring people together and start coaching young kids from different neighborhoods, bringing them to different neighborhoods, letting them know that we're all going through the same struggle, and we should all find ways to unite and do positive things. So for me, it was more than basketball. To this day, it's still more than basketball. To watch these young people that we mentor in basketball go to university, that never thought about university. They never thought about to finish high school. There's some kids when I came into their life, they never thought about to finish high school and finish university in a good production of society. Is what really makes me proud to be a part of the whole basketball realm. And yeah, I'm proud to be here. And I'm really truly happy to be here with these gentlemen here.
Stuff. What do you think is the biggest issue that's preventing most of our youths from achieving their basketball dreams at the other level? Or do you think it starts before then?
It starts way before then. I mean, basketball is, if you're fortunate enough to have a skill set or learn a certain skill set and bring it to an elite level, it's amazing. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the package of, hard work, dedication, a positive attitude, learn to work with others, and the ability to constantly grow your game, it's hard to get to the next level, because then you'll get to a certain level and you'll stay there, you taper off, and you find everyone is passing you. For example, you're the best player in the nation in grade 10, and by grade 12, at least 12 guys are better than you. That's not a good thing. So you need a lot of passion, you need a lot of hard work, and you need a lot of strong support. You need people behind you, like, hey, you know what? You need to put your dedication to this. You need to work hard at this, and and also believe in yourself that you can fight the odds of getting to that level. Because we all know that to get to the NBA, it's like win a lottery like 10 times over, not even once but 10 times over. That's huge. So you really have to work extremely hard with some luck and good dedication and good preparation.
I'd like to ask you the same question. I'd like to include, where does the parents and education stand with that?
For me, everything starts with character. And so to make it comes down to character. That's number one. And then you have to have the discipline. People look at these guys in the NBA and want what they have, not because you have their shoes. It doesn't mean you'll play as well as they do. But what kids don't see is what goes behind the scene. How early they get up, what they eat, do they go to bed on time. Our kids right now, with the whole social media aspect, some of them prefer to play video games than to actually go on the court and spend that time. So I think it all starts with your discipline, and your upbringing comes from your parents and the value that they instill in you. I think what a lot of parents are doing is moving away from the hard work mentality. They're trying to give kids something that they didn't have, not understanding that those values and hard work is what made you who you are. So going back, I think in order to make it now, and what's holding some kids back is fantasy versus reality. Fantasy sees the big car, scoring 100 points. Reality sees the gym, waking up early, going to bed on time, watching what I eat, how I do in school, do I study, do I have a good attitude? And so once you put that together, and then you have God-given abilities, you can compare yourself to Andrew Wiggins all you want. But if you don't have something, a certain skill set, some athleticism, something to work with, then it's going to be difficult. And then go out there and work harder than everybody else. Because you have to love the game. It starts with love. And if you love the game enough, you're going to want to go out there and put in the time and work. It doesn't take a coach to say to you, let's get in the gym to train. I remember March break back in the day, shoveling off snow, off the court to go play. And so you don't see kids playing outdoor ball as much anymore, unless they're, unless they have a Gatorade in their bag and, they're on a certain floor, they want to play. So go back to the old school mentality, and you can see the kids that have the discipline and the work ethics, they're the ones moving ahead, but it takes a lot of time and energy.
As you say that, it makes me think of the quote, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. What do you have to say about this?
Well, it's so funny because, Chris Spence is in a little controversy, but one of the things, he had a book, and it said, one of the things that we try to give our kids is things that we never had, but what we should do, give the kids the things that we had that made us who we were. When as immigrants we came to the country, people on the islands we were thought as hardworking, dedicated to family and different things, and I think somehow we just want to be like the Joneses. I think working hard. I tell my kids all the time when I'm coaching, make sure that you're valuable. When you go into practice, don't let a coach decide if he's going to pick you. Give him no choice. Yeah. And so what happens, as Chris was saying, sometimes the media has such control of what happens to the kids, and it's, once again, we are coaches here and we understand about the game. It's about working hard. And whatever you put in is what you're going to get. There's no shortcut. I always tell kids, say, one of my young men might say, Coach, I want to thank you for helping me get this scholarship. I said, no. That's your work. Don't let anybody take credit for the work that you put in. Sometimes people want to take your credit. The work that you put in is what you're going to get out. You do your schoolwork. And a coach said to me, he said, I want great students who are athletes. I don't want athletes who are students. If you get the marks, you're going to be able to play. You don't have no marks, you can't play. So, those are some of the parts, and we all see things the same way. I think understanding what basketball is, and it's not just singular, it's a combination of many things, as we're talking about skill set, but also being able to listen, being able to pay attention, being able to follow instructions. And I say, the coach needs kids who are going to run through the wall or be able to listen to, we run the play, game is on the line, we need you to do this. When you're not able to follow those things, you're a detriment to your team. So also make yourself very valuable.
Bush, as I'm listening to all this, one of the key things that I'm picking up is the grades. A lot of schools in Toronto would prefer to get a banner in their roof rather than put that child through the education system. What's your opinion on that?
I'm a university kid, so I always tell my guys, education first. Basketball, family first, education second, basketball third. You follow those three in that order, you're going to be fine. Education is the key to anything. I don't care what type of basketball player you are, how good you are. If you don't have the education behind it, you are not going anywhere. And if you do, it's a very hard road. You got to go to JUCO, spend 2 years. Then you get lucky to pick up to go to D1 or go to college when you could go to university. So I always tell my kids, man, just to piggyback on what Chris was saying, you can't have this is a quote I got, you can't have $1 million dream and don't have $1 million work ethic. So if you have that work ethic, it's going to get you where you want to go. And you got to have that same effort that you have on the court to get to your dreams. You got to have the same effort in the classroom.
I find a lot of kids and parents seem to be jumping around from club to club to club to club, which I think is a major problem. What do you think about all the new clubs that are promoting basketball and the different leagues in Toronto, starting with you?
Well, you see where I'm wearing grassroots, right? Coach Rowe, and he's away at the Final Four, North Carolina. Hope you win tonight. And Coach Rowe, when we talk about grassroots basketball, you got to begin with him. But he started all this AAU stuff. He's the one who started it. And everybody that's in the NBA, Tristan Thompson, Corey, they all played for him at the AAU level at some time. Andrew Wiggins. So I tell my guys, I be frank. I say, instead of jumping from team to team or club to club, when you find that coach that has your best interests at heart, you stick with that coach. And that's my advice to any player out there.
I'm not big into AAU myself. I think when you're good, they're going to find you. You're going all over the world. You hear Iceland, Africa, all these places to find basketball players. Do your work. Everybody doesn't, sometimes the big dream is going to the United States, but sometimes the dream is right here. We have talent, we have ability. I think once again, the exceptions. I think, you could tell as coaches right away the kids we think have potential to go down south and play. But for the most part, I think it's a great opportunity to learn the game, to educate yourself. I mean, it's great socially for kids, getting along with different groups. I say one of the things, you see, sport, it opens every door. All the isms that come with a lot of social things in life, sports allows you to bypass those things. It allows people from all different parts of life to get at that one group for that goal to try and win and compete. So I think it's very, very important that we understand that it's a game, but life and as coaches and stuff who want to help these young people, that it's very, very important.
Chris, it's in regards to the new club and the different leagues, but more so I'm speaking about the younger kids, the mom who would maybe go to an organization, and you mentioned the coach, and for whatever reason she does not like that coach, and then another coach might come to her and says, come to my club, right? Then she might end up doing the same thing and jumping around, right? So that's what I'm really kind of touching on. So many clubs, but how do you know when you find that right coach?
To me, it comes down to research. Do your research. If I'm gonna get my car fixed, I'm gonna do research and go to a place that knows how to fix cars. What I find that's happening is a lot of people are good at marketing now. So they put a good package together and a good poster, and they turn the camera on and have kids doing ball handling and a few other things, and then all of a sudden they're an institution. As Wilton was saying, and he spoke about grassroots, for instance, and what they've done over the years, and some of the programs that have helped kids over the years. So I'm going to do my research, and I'm going to try and find out, what have you done as a coach? What have you done as a trainer? And then based on what you've done is how I'm going to decide where to go. Because how does a single mom out there know the difference, that have never played basketball, know who? Guy shows up with a shoebox and says to you, I want your kid, and this is what I've done. What I say is, again, do your research. And I think that we have to put the onus back on the club. Because unfortunately, I find a lot of people are scam artists. They're selling this basketball thing like a scam and a sham. Be honest with kids and be honest with their parents. And don't bypass character at all. If a kid has a bad character and a bad attitude, he knows that I can tell off this guy at this program, and then another person's going to take me on. So what we have to do, if you have that kid's best interest at heart, you can't even come into my gym as a player without saying good morning, good afternoon, or good night. You look me in the eye before you leave, you say thank you. And I'm going to say to you in terms of that, when I look at a guy like Donnie Williams sitting beside me, and I'm honored to sit beside this man. Because when I was a younger coach coming up, and when I was coaching West Hill and stuff, he's a guy I looked up to. And after games, he'd come up to me and say little things. And I don't know if he understands the impact that he's had on me as a coach. And I talk about him, well, his ears must ring constantly. You know what I mean? Because I talk about what he's done. And maybe the most important thing, his son, Ronnie, who was a killer to us, murdered us a lot of times that when we played ball. Okay. Always, when he saw me, always shook my hand, had manners. It's coming from here. And now he's a teacher. So you can see, again, using a man like him to see what he's done. People coming up don't want to find out who did it. They just want to run and try things on their own. So I say, you got to do your research.
But realizing that most of the coaches that are coaching these kids at a younger age are parents. Right? These think that more programs should be, they should maybe go through a different program before they become a coach, so that the onus is more on them, so that they don't be maybe doing something different to these kids and sending the parents to another child.
What we do, in our program, when the teams are younger, we don't mind parents coaching. But once they get to a certain age, we don't allow parents to coach. And the reason is, and I'm a father, I coached my son. When people scored, I was happy. But when my son scored, something different happened in my heart. I had a different feeling because I'm a father. And so what that does, most of the time, it clouds our judgment. So you're either too hard on your kid, which is unfair to them, or you're too soft and you let them get away with everything. You know, so as difficult as it is, I think that when kids get to a certain age, the parents should turn them over, you know, to somebody that's bipartisan, you know what I mean, and have them coach, you know, and it doesn't take away from what you've done, because a kid that comes along has tons of people that contribute to the success. It's not just one person, and most of the time it starts with a parent. So I don't want to take that away from you, but I think when they get to a certain age, we've got to separate them.
Realizing that when kids are young, whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. You put bad in, you're going to get bad out. You put good in, you're going to get good out. At such a young age, what should be done with these kids to send a message that, here, I'm with a coach, regardless if he's good or bad, or some days might be good because of practice and some days might be bad because of, you know, you might be having a bad day. Let's stick with it. Let's stay with him. Let's continue on this drive rather than bouncing around. How do we strive that, stress that to the mother or the father who's with a particular club?
Well, you know, again, for me personally, I always tell my players, the parents, that basketball is the extension of life. You know, the trials and tribulations that we go through, the ups and downs, the challenges that we go through, and we find ways to get through the rough times and celebrate the good times. So all that, in another word, is dedication. So once a parent gets a child into a program, you teach them to be dedicated to that program, and even if that program is the worst program possibly, you look at that child in the eye and say, by the time you leave that program, it's going to be the best program in the entire city, in the entire world, because you were there and you made a difference. So by bringing the kid here, here, and here, you're taking that part away for them to be a part of a building ground, to be the one that says, I turned this program around with my hard work, with my dedication, you know, with my leadership, with my positivity, and my production on the basketball court, right? Yes, we started, you know, at the bottom, but here we're now at the top from all this hard work that we put in, instead of running to a team that's already at the top and just being a part of that. So that's what I would tell my players and parents.
In 2014, Councillor Michael Thompson introduced a motion to City Council which directed Parks, Forestry and Recreation Division to bring together Toronto's basketball community to develop a new basketball development plan. Why do you think there's not enough support, and is there anything we can do?
You know, I think there's support out there, but the way things are going in the city now with all this violence, that people, teams, parents, coaches are reluctant to travel from point A to point B, because they feel if they leave a certain area at a certain time, they might be in some type of a danger or some kind of a threat. So that's a big part of it, the fear factor that, you know, once we go out of our area and now with another area, and with all these so-called beefs going on all across the city, and, you know, for basketball at a certain age, you're not going to finish before 9. And after 9, it gets dark, around 9, it gets dark, and then people really start getting concerned about the safety. So to me, that's a big part of it. That, you know, that part needs to be taken care of or set up. And even when they go to the so-called pay duty, where they have officers in sight, things still happen. So people still have that fear of their safety.
Okay. Now, what does the future of basketball look like in Toronto for men and women, and where would you like to see it in the years ahead?
When we go down to the States, it's funny because Toronto is called a hotbed of basketball. And coaches, I had the opportunity to run into Never Nervous Purvis Ellison at AU event, you know, and he says, man, what are you guys doing up in Toronto? You know, what are you guys putting in the water? So Toronto's a hotbed for ball. I think this is where we've got to be a little concerned. And, you know, speaking to this earlier, we see AAU, and AAU is great in terms of exposure. But the issue that we're running into is a lot of kids are playing more than they're training, and that becomes the problem. So in the last year NBA's draft, 28 out of the 60 players are international. Okay, so you see more international players coming, and what has happened is that the international players are training more than they play. And so Americans don't realize it yet, but they're falling behind, you know, at the grassroots level. What I hope that we continue to do in the GTA is continue to develop kids. continue to show them the importance of that discipline, getting into the gym, working on their fundamentals. And if we continue to do that, and I think we're going to be fine. The one advice I'm going to give parents, never, ever put down your coaches to your kids. Okay, don't bring that to them.
No.
I had a guy that coached my son that was probably the worst coach ever. But after every practice, he had to go up and say thank you. And at the end of every game, he said thank you. At the end of the year, we left, but not one time did I ever put him down. So in order for our game to continue to grow, you know, as the African Parable says, it takes a village to grow it. It takes community workers, community coaches, AU coaches, parents, teachers. It takes everybody coming together. And so if we put the egos aside a little bit and put the kids first, then I think our game will continue to grow and we'll continue to accomplish great things.
A child has to be a child. What do you have to say? Where would you like to see the future of basketball?
Well, I think one of the big problems still is gym cost. In Toronto area, I know in Scarborough, I used to coach the Peace Games, and I remember going to Indiana, and after 6 o'clock, they paid $1, and they just needed a financial transaction. I think if it was hockey, I think we invest so much for hockey. I think our country is now so diverse with so many different people in here, and the sport is growing. I think we need to have access to the gym. When you have young people, you have to pay. You pay now or you pay later, and I find that we invest too much in failure. You know, we build in more jails, and if there's a problem in the community, all the services fly in there like everybody there to help. I'm saying put the money in the front, the result is different, the outcome is different, and I think it's so important that kids will make mistakes. If we have a place for them to go, they're going to make less mistakes because we're here. But when we are here and you don't use us, we allow them to go on the street and they're going to make children's mistakes. So we have to invest in having places for those kids where they could be safe, where they have coaches like us who are willing to help and volunteer our time to make a change. But if we're not going to spend the money to make the changes, then we're going to spend the money for when they get in trouble.
Wilton.
That's a great question. I coach 12U right now for grassroots, and I'm always in the gym almost every weekend. I'm seeing from grade 4 come up, and the talent that we have in this country is unbelievable. There was a stretch where we had a lot with the Wiggins and the Corey Joseph and the Tristans, and the kind of talent faded away a bit. But the kids that are coming up right now are very talented. Like, it's no surprise to me in the future that, like, I think we're already there. Canada will probably be the second highest nationality in the NBA. And the numbers are going to keep increasing because we have that much talent coming up. Like, on my grade 7 team, I have the #1 ranked. There's a kid in North America, Elijah Fisher. And he's only grade 7, he's already ranked #1 in his age group, right? So that's big. And when you have kids like that, you see, he's a kid that, like Chris talked about it, Monday to Saturday to Sunday, he's in the gym working on his game. You don't have to ask him, he's there. If he's not practicing with one team, he's there with another coach doing something, working on his game. So the future of the game is very bright. To piggyback on what Ken was saying, we need funding. The biggest difference between here and the States is that the States fund. Coaches get paid. Here is everything is volunteer. Like, it's so difficult to get gyms to do that appropriate practice that you need because the expense is so great. Then the reason why you have so much kids going to AAU in these clubs is because parents in their head, they want to invest now so they don't have to invest later and get that kid that scholarship. Because they want the kid to get to that level and get a scholarship, they won't have to pay for it. So they try to invest now. But in order for our game to go to the next level, this is my personal opinion. 1, we have to get funding from the government. 2, gym costs and things has to go down for especially teams that are in at-risk neighborhoods. You know what I mean? Gym costs has to go down. Toronto District School Board has to step in. the community centers, and then we already have the talent coming up. It's if we're gonna have the backing from our government, our school board, the city, to make them get to that next level and make it easier for them.
Well, happy birthday to you, Buju.
It's not my birthday yet, man.
Well, would you like to tell us when is your birthday?
15th. Right here at the K9 Club.
7th
Yes.
April.
Final thoughts. Buju, NCAA Finals champion.
I'm blue. North Carolina.
North Carolina.
Got to go with the Zags, the big boys.
Man, I can't go against North Carolina.
NBA championship. Who's going to win it?
You talking a heart pick or a common
Just
sense
take
pick?
any, whichever you want.
I'm gonna go with it's hard to rule against the champs until they lose. So even though they're struggling right now, I'm gonna stay there, with them. So that's gonna be my pick for now until they lose.
NBA.
I got to go with KD all the way Golden State because I don't want KD to be like Karl Malone, those guys who play forever and don't have that ring. I mean, we all play the game of basketball. We know when you play all those years, you don't walk with that championship. It's like you were never there. So I'm rooting for KD. I'm rooting for Golden State, even though I'm not a Golden State fan. But I want to see him get that ring. So Golden State all the way.
NBA.
I'm Golden State, and Mr. West gave up $12 million. He had the contract. He had his $12 million. He gave it all up to try and win that championship.
ring.
So I mean, that's a very expensive
Yeah.
ring, and I hope Golden State wins.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a rematch of last year. I'm going to be cheering for Cleveland, but my heart says Golden State's going to win this year.
All right. Well, again, I'd like to thank Spade Bar and Lounge, TG for Life, GYU. Don't forget, each and every Saturday night inside Spade, we're going to be here. Follow Roger Wilson, Ducky Moat Entertainment, Dennis the Man with the Beard, and myself, Randy Washington, on Facebook. Also, don't forget the TG for Life Classic Annual Basketball Tournament, June 22nd to the 25th. Keeping the spirit of Sean Green alive. Finally, April the 15th, inside Spade, featuring Ron C. We'll be here. Thank you, gentlemen. Wilton, Ken, Donnie, Chris, thanks again.